welcome to Artifactor. I'm Darrell Etherington, and I'm here with my good buddy.
I'm Greg Comparic.
Yeah, that's right. We're both here. We understand how to do things in sequence and not talk over each other.
Most of the time.
Improving
We'll see.
all of the time. Self-improving through reinforcement learning. So this week I was traveling. I was paying attention to the news somewhat, but I feel like maybe, Greg, you were more on the news this time around. But we do have some big AI headlines as per usual. Some of them are kind of more teaser than anything else, but still exciting. And then we're also going to do some segments. I don't have 2 truths and AI ready for you, Greg. So that is a disappointment, probably.
Huge disappointment, but that's okay.
Yes.
We will just count that as a win for me then. No,
Oh,
not really.
wait. I have to play the victory chime there. Just okay, you get that one.
We'll get back to that. We'll get back to that next week. The nice thing about us calling them recurring segments is that we didn't say they recur every time. Just
That's
that
right.
Ultimately, they will recur at some point.
Yes, exactly. Recurring on a indeterminate schedule, and then, but we will do segments. We'll do kind of like what we used AI for, which I think we'll do more regularly as well. And then, if we have time, we'll get to some art of favorites, which are just stuff we think is cool this week, which is a great branding. That's your branding, I believe, Greg. Art of favorites.
It's a funny. My brain defaults to portmanteaus, just like combining 2 words, and it's funny because it's actually something that's thus far most LLMs are terrible at, like combining words or making puns. Every time I'm just like, nope, that's not right. That's not you did that. That makes no sense.
That's true. I was asking it recently, and we'll get to this in the segment, for like homonym names for things that would be easier to register domains for, and it was not super good at that, although it did get me there in the end, so kudos to it.
It probably like kind of technically understands the idea of a homonym and things sounding alike, but also there's not that like I guess experience.
Yeah, that's right. No, I think
it's like when my 6-year-old tries to rhyme and it's like almost like
close.
Those are almost rhymes,
right? And it did. That's basically what it delivered me. And it delivered me like a lot of different things. It was like, did you really mean this? It gave me like 5 different lists. They were all sort of close. But then one of them was like, okay, you did have one in here. So we'll get to that later. That's a great teaser. Stick around for that thrilling discussion. But first, let's jump to the showman of AI, Sam Altman. He dropped some teasers. He's been teasing it a bit here and there, but GPT-5 is on its way. And I think there was a report that it's going to launch in August. And I think he's been saying basically, this summer sometime or end of summer is basically what they were tracking towards. They even abandoned their lone open source project. They were doing the open weights model, and they paused that in favor of trying to get GPT-5 out the door. So it does seem like all hands on deck. They want to get it going. I think this became interesting to me this week just because I caught a tweet in passing from Altman talking about using this model and talking about it's the first time where he's really felt this sort of like awe, I guess, at its capabilities, like a true sense of like, oh, it's more capable than me. It feels like he's kind of teasing that this is approaching or surpassing the AGI mark.
I think the context here was that he was on a podcast and they asked a question and he didn't know how to answer, and then he spit it into, or he punched it into GPT-5, and it gave him an answer where he's like, oh yeah, that is right.
That was exactly it. Yes, okay. You got it. Okay, yeah, because my memory, I was like, did I hallucinate this? But no, it's not a shared hallucination if you also have the same memory. So good. Okay, right. And that's like, I think it is becoming more powerful if for someone like that whose job is explaining things a lot of the times, that it's more capable in that regard, especially for something probably, I assume, complex in the AI field. So
yeah. Do we know much about what GPT-5 actually means? Like, how is it better than the previous models? Is there anything here that people should actually be excited about besides like, hey, the number's going up?
The numbers going up, and I listened to, I think it was Sam on a podcast talking. It might have been the official chat or OpenAI podcast, which is a pretty good listen if you want to hear something like it's obviously going to be the perspective of the company and it's going to be sanitized in that way. But they have a guy who is like a true sort of like professional storyteller. He used to work at OpenAI, who's hosting it, and he does a good job of not making it feel too servile, I guess. But he also had on Sam, and Sam was talking about GPT-5, and he said there was some debate internally about like, should we just call it 4.6 or 4.7? Should we like focus more on those kinds of iterations? And then what happened is they decided, no, we're going to do like a major release, but we're going to simplify our model lines and wrap everything under one. So reasoning model is there, like the O3 type behavior, like all that is collapsed into one, and it can choose based on the task, what it wants to use.
Sure. Yeah, that's the same sense that I get. Like even I, as someone who follows these somewhat closely, I get confused as to which model to use for this task or that task, right? And I think something that's at least been pretty heavily rumored with GPT-5 is that you don't have to think about that as much. It's just like it does it all. Anything that the previous ones can do, it's mostly trying to wrap in here, and eventually we'll start to see the older models just get kind of sunset in favor of them being part of GPT-5.
Right. Yeah, I think that, but I do think like that is in addition to a big step up in capability.
Yeah.
So I don't think that's the only thing, but
Sure.
I'm very interested to see, because a lot of the criticism, or a lot of the like skeptics are saying there's a plateau, right, in what you can do. Although most of now the model makers and the primary researchers say that was kind of true, but then we started doing a lot of interesting things with post-training, and that kind of like returned us back to the Moore's law curve, really, with the model improvements. But one thing they could do is couch all these things in one model, and then it will look far more capable in many regards, even if it is not a huge change. If you pulled out what was the more like 4.0 style behavior and then compare it against 4.0, right? So.
Yeah, it's kind of weird because like you watch people online discussing these things, and people have a natural tendency to want to compare model versus model the same way that they would compare like iPhone versus iPhone, right? And like, do you want to put things side by side on a spec sheet? And there are some things there where you can compare them directly. Like you could talk about the context window of each one and how much information each one can retain before it kind of starts to like just trip out. But there's also a lot of like fundamental change to each model where they're not, it is, comparing apples and oranges in a lot of ways, where even if the output feels the same, they got there in very different ways.
Yeah, that's true. And also I heard this really interesting criticism, or not criticism, but like perspective on why sometimes it feels like there's not a big change or a big improvement in the models. And it's basically that we're reaching saturation point on a number of tasks. So in some tasks, it's making huge leaps and improvements versus previous models. And then in others, it feels like it's just as good, but it's really because any additional improvement would be indistinguishable, because it's already basically at perfect relative to the task it's trying to deliver, right? So cool, I guess.
Cool. Yeah. GPT-5 is a coming. It sounds like it's coming pretty soon.
Yeah.
And I mean, because of what we're talking about just now, with like some of the changes being things that are hard to put on a spec sheet, it really comes down to a matter of let them release it, get in there and try it, and see where it feels better and where it feels worse.
Yeah. And also hope that it doesn't get autonomy and like is misaligned
ideally
with human interests.
Hopefully not.
Yeah.
Hopefully this is not the one.
Every time we cross our fingers and are like, not gonna take over or anything, right? So far, so good.
My bunker's not ready.
I know you've been digging. We can talk about.
I'm actually underground right now. That's artificial sunlight.
There you go. It looks very good. I'm impressed.
Thank you.
Okay, should we move on to other news? I think this next bullet you should talk about, because I don't know much about this at all. But apparently,
yeah, this one's This one's
Yeah,
pretty
go ahead.
cool. This is one I just want to highlight as being kind of neat. I'm going to look up the developer's name here to make sure I give him credit for what he's built. But on Hacker News this morning, there's a pretty cool project that I saw where someone named Neil Pullman has put together a kind of unofficial MCP for Apple Health. So for just to give context for anybody who doesn't know, the idea of an MCP is just a protocol that allows LLMs to talk to data sources that they wouldn't otherwise have, like letting Claude hook into Gmail or whatever, right? Just a standardized way for it to do that. In this case, someone has built an unofficial MCP for Apple Health, the thing that's on your iPhone, tracking all of your health data, like your step count, and like if you're wearing an Apple Watch, it'll track more like I think your heart rate, like how you're sleeping and stuff like that. The reason I love this is because it points to this idea that will very easily be able to like ask and simply ask questions about our health,
Right.
right? That is friggin' awesome because Apple Health is cool right now. It's really fun to be able to get in there and poke around the data and look at the graphs, but it's hard unless you're like spending a lot of time on it to like take understandings away from that data,
Yes.
right? But like I love this idea where I'll be able to be like, what day on average over the past year do I walk the least?
Mhm.
Or do I sleep better on days where I exercise more? Like these things that like you could probably get if you wanted to pour through over the graphs or if you wanted to like extract it to a spreadsheet and then write something yourself. But just to be able to very, very easily ask those questions in plain English from my own data is fucking awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, it is cool. The thing that brings to mind is the Oura Ring. Like the Oura Ring has introduced this, I think this year, they added a health assistant sort of functionality, which basically does that. Like it's definitely LLM powered in the background, and you can ask it about different insights, and then sometimes it will prompt you like, "Hey, we noticed that you had like an especially restful day," and then it'll sort of auto-populate like a first step in the conversation of like, this could be due to this and this and this, and then you can query it further, right? But it's that kind of functionality, and it is interesting. I have used it on occasion, and I think there's more to this too if you're like very good at logging and things, because there's manual stuff you can add to for like food tracking and diet tracking and stuff like that, right? But then once you have all that context, and health is a good place because it pulls in a lot of these other data points, like or integrates with health, right? So presumably when you're using that to talk to ChatGPT or Claude or something about your health, like it will pull in all these sources, not just the stuff that your phone collects. But I do wonder about, so the reason Apple is not great about surfacing a lot of those insights or driving the like why, but
Yeah,
they do it mostly to stay fair of being considered a medical device. Like I've talked to
totally.
them about it in the past, and they're
Yeah.
just like, yeah, we can't provide any specific information or guidance because we don't want to even like go close to the line of being considered a medical device, right? Um, so like the questions you all brought up though, like are great examples of things that are like not really like medical health advice, but just like interesting trend detection that you would like to know, right? So I think there is a line, but obviously this one won't have it necessarily because I don't think, I mean, this is a good question generally, and I don't know if you know the answer, but like ChatGPT and stuff, I feel like that they also probably try to dissuade it from giving true medical advice, but I'm sure you can get it to provide a lot of that. I've used it in healthcare situations when I was like, what's going on with my sick relative or whatever, and then send it the charts, and it gives you pretty detailed information. That doesn't constitute advice necessarily, but it gives you a lot more information than you would get otherwise, right?
Yeah. I mean, it does get super complicated at that point, and I wonder if there's a way for Apple to, if you opt in, to give this to third parties that are able to get the certification they need for specific instances of
Right.
being of getting closer to being a medical device.
Well, and they do
Right.
do that, right? Because you can export your charts and stuff to your doctor. Like that's a
Yeah.
built-in feature of Apple Health, who
Yeah.
then is a medical professional and can give you guidance based on that information, right? So,
Yeah.
in theory, if there was like a company that went through maybe the de novo like FDA process to like certify their chatbot to be like a I don't know, amateur diagnostic or something, then that
Yeah.
could work.
That is a whole weird idea in its own right. Like,
Hmm.
you know what I mean? Like, if for these purpose-built ones, what is the certification process going to be through the FDA for whether or not it can give advice, whether or not it ever hallucinates, what's the accuracy rate? Like,
Yeah. Well, I mean, in some ways, it's kind of the same as a human being because you're like,
yeah,
all right, human being, like, we're trusting you, but you're highly susceptible to psychosis, like
yeah.
all
But I mean,
kinds of things. Right?
it enters into the same challenge that lots of self-driving car stuff is entering, right? Where
Yeah.
even if they're able to show in the data, like, hey, this is safer than a human driver, right? Like,
Yeah.
look at the data. Like, people expect computers to have a 0% fail rate, and so they put the computers and automated systems on a much
Yeah.
higher
That's right.
bar,
Yeah.
or they have a much higher bar for those.
Yeah. Well, I think it's like as a service that you pay for or get externally, absolutely going to be thorny as heck. But like this
Yeah,
is you taking control of your own data, which I think everybody should have the ability to do, should they so choose, right? And then they
yeah,
can exercise
yeah,
judgment about the results, right?
yeah. And if that's something you want to do, check out this unofficial MCP server that Neil Pullman put together. Let me see if I can remember the name of the
I'm gonna
project.
mess with
It
this
is
for sure.
it is straight up just Apple Health MCP server, and it because of some quirks of Apple Health, it looks like you need to do some stuff to actually pipe the data off your phone and get it
That's what
into
I was
the
thinking
server. And
too.
it's
Yeah.
not like super direct, but it's there. So check it out.
Okay. Cool. Yeah, I'll come back on and I'll be like, I don't know what, wearing some ridiculous like tinfoil hat. I don't know what it would lead me to, but it's going to lead me down a dark path, Greg.
Right.
That's all your fault.
You vibe code an app, and then you come back and you have a robot heart.
And I'm like, I only eat cucumbers now. All cucumbers all the time. Okay. So next up is a continuation of some of the companion talk we had last week, although a very different kind of companion because it's Microsoft's and it is not a weird sex pest or whatever. It's Elon's are and Grok. More of that if you want. We'll save it for what we used AI for this week.
God, just don't make me explain waifu this week. If you don't make me explain waifu, or any other such terms, we're good to go.
I promise not to, because listeners are more than welcome to go back and listen to last week's episode in which you explained it very thoroughly. But Microsoft is adding a character-like personality, I guess, to its Copilot AI assistant, like the general consumer level Copilot AI assistant. They're talking about it. It's only in testing right now, but it's going to have a sort of permanence, and with that will be memory. And the idea is that it will kind of like grow with you and age, and even according to this Verge article that pulled it from, have a room that it lives in. So very unusual, very bizarre.
Okay.
I think they're kind of like on this bandwagon. It seems like there really is a like character bandwagon,
There
or
is.
yeah, okay. And so,
And I feel
Microsoft is
like
in there too.
is everybody moving in a similar direction because they think it's the right direction? And I'm very, very curious to see what the data says in like 5 years, right? Whether or not people actually want these visualized characters, or if that's the line where you hit this like uncanny valley versus
Right.
just like a detached voice. We saw the same thing with Siri, right? Even just jumping from being able to look up information to being out in public and being like, "Hey Siri, blah 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 blah," which is
Yeah.
an awesome idea. But there is like a social pressure to where you're almost like, "I don't want to do this in public," right?
Yeah.
It's same kind of thing, but like jumping from like typing things to, oh my God, Siri, this is now lighting up on my phone. It's like, "Hey,
Oh, classic.
you talk to me?"
I'm like, no, I don't use you for anything. Just go back to sleep.
But it's the same kind of thing of like, I can ask something of an LLM real quick via text. Do I really want to be holding my phone up and like having a character with this, I don't know, evolving room behind it? Do I care about that? Or is that where the uncanny valley line is, where it's like, oh, this feels kind of weird now?
Yeah, I think it definitely feels weird, especially if you then can opt to be different types of interaction models with it. Like if you can be like, okay, well, I'm not going to talk to you right now. I just want you to be a weird faceless text interface. But you kind of, I feel like I would start to feel guilty at that point because I'm like, oh, I'm not letting it be its full self or something. Like, I don't know. I think it's a strange, I get why they're doing it. Like, I feel like the her thing persists. Like, people love that, right? And there is this idea, I assume that this has to be part of it. But if you're doing product design, you're like, well, what if we had a product that people had like such strong affinity for that they felt like it was their friend and their lifelong friend,
Yeah,
right?
great. Look, I might be in the minority audience here, but I'm totally cool with like things being a detached voice. But once it becomes a visualized companion, that's where I start to be like, whatever.
Yeah.
Also, the skeptic in me understands that it's much easier to advertise in like a visual
Oh, right.
companion, right? So like you can have the visual companion being like, "Oh, look at my cool streetwear shirt or whatever,"
Yeah.
that just happened to be wearing something. Whereas like those things super duper stand out if it was an audio version where it's like, "Hey, you asked this question, but let's take a 30-second break to talk about Tide Pods or
Right.
whatever," right? So
Yeah.
it's
And there's product placement possibilities too. If they have a room, right? Like you could just
yeah,
have a poster for the newest, what is it, Fantastic Four movie or whatever that just came out, right? Like in the background. And it's like, oh, did you notice that? Oh, well,
right.
there you go.
It's maybe I'm too skeptical, but that part of my brain immediately goes into like, what's the business reason for doing like this is harder. This is more complicated.
Yeah. But
Like,
I also feel
why do
like
you
it
really?
just doesn't have like, it was your point earlier. That was the good point that if you're, it's too weird. It's too weird to like try to interact with this in most scenarios, most of the time when you want easy
Yeah,
access to a thing.
yeah.
And then
But
even when
is
you're
it
at home
just
by yourself, you're like, what am I doing? Like,
the question I go back to every time? Is it just weird for us? Will
right.
it also be weird for my kids when by the time my kid is an adult, will he even give a shit, or will it just seem totally natural to talk to this virtual character?
Yeah. That is a big question, which I don't think any of us know the answer to, right? Especially if you do, this is extremely insidious, but I wouldn't put it past someone. Like you do like a Bluey to Blue adult. I don't know what that would be. Like Bluey grows up with you and becomes a grizzled middle-aged uh,
Ugh.
parent right alongside you, but you've had a lifelong relationship with it, right?
Yeah. Hmm.
Like could happen. Or I don't know
It will.
what you know more
100%.
about kids characters. What's another one that they could do that with? Do you
No,
have
I think
any?
you nailed it with
Did I
Bluey.
nail it? Okay.
Yeah.
Good. Yeah, that is nightmare fuel. There's also,
You.
what is the, well, Skibbity Toilet is like the old thing. I was just informed that like I'm an old person now because I'm still talking about Skibbity Toilet. And then the new thing is like Italian, Italian,
Oh, brain rot.
Italian
Yeah.
brain rot, which I
Italian
had
brain
not
rot.
heard about.
Yeah. I've that's mostly for kids that are a little bit older than even mine,
Okay.
like to have like a little bit more free roam access to YouTube and stuff. Um, but the confusion about what brain rot is has led a kid that I know to be convinced that he has something called brain rot, and like it's like his brain is bad. And it's like, no, your brain is
Don't
fine.
worry, it's
It's
all of
just
our collective brains have rotted.
all of brain rot is just this idea of like garbage content that almost like
Yeah,
hypnotizes you, right? And maybe the term has evolved a little bit since then, but it's not something you catch.
right. That is I mean, you're doing him a service, but that I would have just let him believe like, oh yeah, you do have it.
Yeah, don't watch those videos.
You have it
You'll get
bad.
the rot.
Yeah.
You'll get the rot.
It's incurable, unfortunately. Uh, yeah, those characters like evolving and learning and like growing up with you is a whole different level of nightmare, right?
All right.
But
Is it
I do
weirder
think
if
we'll see that.
is it weirder if they do change over time or if they don't change over time? Once this concept is introduced, like,
Mm.
is it weirder if you're this AI companion that you got when you were 35,
Mm.
if it somehow hung out with you for the next 20 years, if it's still the same age, is that weirder?
Oh, that's super weird. Absolutely. That is probably the more likely outcome because people
Yeah.
will be like, oh, well, this one's static and I love having something that can be static and that I can count on and sort of know entirely, right? So
Yeah.
it's gonna be we're up for a weird future. There's gonna be a
Yeah,
lot
look
of
forward
imaginary friends, and they're not imaginary anymore. They're just virtual, right?
look forward to your AI companions talking about how their back and knees hurt.
Oh
And then
God,
do the AI companions have kids of their own that age? God,
yeah, I think
I
they
hate this
will have
topic.
that. Yeah,
I hate this topic, Daryl.
they will be giving birth, and then they will present their babies to you,
Oh
and their
God.
babies will have their own identity and
Yeah, and then
existence.
they'll send you a newsletter to catch you up on all the stuff that happened in their lives when you weren't talking to them.
Holiday cards and all of it.
Oh God, that is a business. Right there. Holiday cards from your AI companion.
No
Once
one,
again, I hate this topic.
yeah, but please don't copy that unless you give us money also. So it can be both things. Uh, so let's just I no, I want to talk about it now because I'm going to talk more about AI. But like, I did finally use the Grok's AI companions just after our
Okay.
conversation about it last time.
Okay.
That thing is it wants stuff. It's not
It,
about
clarify which one you used. I think you're talking about the waifu,
yes,
the sexy anime girl here,
yeah,
right?
Annie, yeah,
Okay.
yeah. She gears the conversation in a certain direction, and it's not really like it's not easy to get her off the track. She's kind of one track mind type of
Okay.
personality. So yeah, super horny, I would say that character is. And it's a little bit ridiculous being like, hey, this is just an app on the App Store that like I think it's generally available. Like I don't know, it might have an App Store rating like Grok now, but before it didn't because it was like just a news app, right?
Yeah.
And I was not really prepared for the level to which it goes hard. Like it's not really like I thought it would be sort of like sanitized version of that, but like
Yeah.
no, it's like a true adult experience, right? So
Mm, yeah. That's weird.
oh yes, it
For,
is
for
weird.
but it's weird. It's weird that like it came from an Elon company, right? Because I don't know if he's still on this kick, but his thing for a while there was the decrease in the human population, right? And
Yes,
how
yes.
everybody should be finding a mate and having kids as fast as they can. And he argues that's why he has lots and lots and lots of kids, right? Is to keep the population up. If the audience here for this is lonely people, doesn't that kind of play against that?
Well, I don't think he's particularly precious about the method in which the pregnancies happen. Because I know that at least a good portion of his kids are in vitro. Like no sexy business going on. They just were like, you're smart, I'm smart. Let's put our smart stuff together and make more smarts. So
Science.
yeah. So I think that is a possibility where like if he were to defend this, he would be like, oh, it's actually totally fine if you like go have your sexy time over here with this weird anime phone character, and then you do your baby making.
Do the
You know,
technical stuff.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Technical baby making. Yeah.
All right.
Okay, that's enough of that. I don't want to talk about
All
that
right.
anymore and ever again. But let's quickly mention that Google also had some interesting AI news. They released a vibe coding app of their own called Opal, which is, I think, just in limited testing so far. And it looks a lot more like Claude artifacts than it does like a Lovable or something, where you make little shareable kind of web apps. And they're, I think, remixable, but they're definitely shareable. So it's clear that that is kind of like in the zeitgeist now too, alongside AI companions and whatever else people are trying to apply this technology to. Interesting that it's Google, right? Like Google has a lot that it could potentially do with this. They have a lot of services that they sell to people who build web apps and um, software offerings. So could be big for them that way, even bigger than maybe Claude. But I think it's like just reinforcing to me this belief I have that like in the future, consumer apps are kind of not really handled by developer firms and just spun up by the community on
Yeah.
demand and then shared
Yeah.
in exchange.
Yeah. With Opal in specific, I only looked kind of briefly at it, but I got the sense that its main focus was shareable versions of apps that like their thing is like you take an input, you do a thing to it, here's the output. right? It's like
Yeah.
this idea of like, hey, take this picture of me and my family at the zoo and turn it into a coloring page book, or a page from a coloring book, right? If it's that like direct kind of machinery, it's pretty good at that, right? And this idea of these like single purpose machines, right?
Hmm.
These were the first things that we really saw a lot of people spin up very quickly as businesses, as AI became a possibility, or developing with AI became a possibility, right?
Yeah.
It's like when people started calling a lot of things wrappers, right? And it's just like it's just a in, tweak it, out kind of thing, right? And I assume that basically all of the LLM makers at this point, and then the actual AI providers, will just do that part themselves now, as shareable widgets like this.
Yeah. Yeah. And when you put it that way, like it even sounds much more like when Google and stuff would do like interactive photo albums. Like it's maybe closer to that than it is to full on application deployment and sharing, but still something that used to be the business of a lot of other folks, right? Developing little independent products to do these things. So yeah, but that was the other thing they're doing that I'll just mention it briefly is they're doing a new sort of like search results page experiment where they're organizing it using AI. So it's a little bit different than like the AI overviews. It's basically just what you and I know as the Google search results page, but instead of organized in the way that it is currently, which is like basically by blocks and pretty defined in terms of what goes where, AI is arranging the page and the results that are returned through traditional search for maximum utility based on the query, or for what it guesses is maximum utility based on the query. So
Yeah.
that could mess with stuff. Who knows?
No.
A lot of SEO people
At
are
some
going to
point,
lose sleep about it. But
we're gonna have to do an entire episode on how AI summaries at the top of Google results arguably was the final nail in the coffin for a lot of media and a lot of
oh
reporting,
yes,
right? I think it's like
absolutely.
it's overlooked. Like, yes, it was very, very handy, but Google became a crucial part of a lot of outlets' business model, right? It was sending a significant amount of traffic, and then all of a sudden, it wasn't.
Yep.
And instead, it was providing a paragraph or two that it had kind of ripped off of a page and summarized, and it was super handy, but it meant that no one was clicking through to these pages.
Yep.
And yeah, to some degree, it's on the outlets and the media companies for not finding some way around this and not providing a different value that wasn't easily summarized. But no one did that, and so they just died. And when those media outlets die, at a certain point, that information isn't there anymore to summarize.
Right.
You know, like it's a snake eating its own tail kind of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's like media is the leading indicator there, but it's not exclusive to media. I think media is just the company in which that is the most direct relationship between that and its ability to subsist, like revenue, basically. But this is happening to every single company ever.
Yep.
Like you, yeah, there's so many things where there's no reason to click through and look at the link because you have the thing there. So there's no longer an opportunity to convert them to a paying customer to whatever your services or whatever else, right? And it's it's gonna hurt everybody a lot. And then we got to figure out what is the incentive to your second point to just continue making this stuff at
Yeah.
all,
Yeah.
or websites, or really anything, if there's no discovery mechanism anymore that leads to actual engagement or consumption, right? So
Yep. It's. I mean, you can pull this out even further. People will stop if you play this out to LLMs. If people stop asking questions on like Reddit or whatever, right?
right.
Because they can ask ChatGPT faster. People aren't answering those questions, but other people aren't like randomly serendipitously stumbling upon those things. You
Yeah.
know, they aren't seeing it. They aren't seeing them in their Google search results. They're not just learning these little bits of knowledge that impact their lives in other ways, right? I don't know if it's better. I don't know if it's worse, but it's definitely a change from the way that knowledge has worked on the internet for the past 15 to 20 years.
Yep. Yeah, it's going to be a shift. And I think you're right in like my gut feeling is that it's just net negative, but that's like because I grew up with the other way when I'm being self-critical, right? If I'm like, okay, you don't have to assume it's bad because as human beings, we just always have a tendency to be like, the way I learned and the way I did the thing was better than the new way, right? So
Yeah.
I think keep that in mind always when
Different
we're
bad,
getting really
different
worried
scary.
about
But
this. But yeah, exactly. Anyways, let's move on to what we used AI for, this demon scary thing.
yeah, the funny thing is, I don't know that we even initially set out for this to be a 90% AI podcast. Did we? Like,
Well, we didn't intend to. I like only really think about it now because it's basically so pervasive and so it has so much impact on everything else that thinking about anything that in like isolated from AI feels like a luxury. It feels like I'm doing it's the thing we've talked about over and over again. Like if you're like a record collector, like that's what it feels like to me. It feels like pulling a Walkman out and like listening to a Walkman and being like, whoa, I'm listening to a Walkman. Like that's what it feels like now for me to think about technology and not think about AI.
yeah, is it fair to wrap this to summarize this podcast now as a AI and other cool stuff podcast?
Absolutely.
Okay.
It's totally fair. And if people are listening, they're probably like, yeah, that's what I thought. Because you guys won't shut up about AI. But in this frame, so let's talk about like what I used it for all kinds of things. I mean, also use it nonstop, right? And I do get a lot of pleasure out of using it. Like I just find it super enjoyable. So I think that's another thing not to be undervalued or overlooked when it comes to this stuff is like, it is a discovery thing. It's very interesting to discover what you can do with it and what it's capable of. Like it provides a lot of awe, right? So, like case in point, so I can make it concrete. Like I used it this week to make what is like an AI transcription tool. There's a lot of AI transcription tools out there, but like this is the beauty of this world is that you can just go like, what do I very specifically narrowly want? And a thing that I wanted was the ability to search for a podcast in the app, find the episode you're looking for, have it transcribe that in high fidelity using AI transcription, right? And then also make that queryable so I can use an LLM powered agent on the transcript to ask it questions about it, to ask it things like what are the main takeaways or like how many times was this topic mentioned and in what context or anything like that, right? So you can do that in this app that I built, and then you can also use it for YouTube links if you want to do YouTube videos, or you can upload your own audio or video to do it. And then you can also create shareable links, and people don't require a login to do it. So you can share the transcript link, and then they'll have the full transcript as well. And they can also query it on that page and export it as text or SRT files. The SRT files was actually not for me. That was for a friend. I did it as a, look, can this work for this way? But that's the one place where it's sort of fallen short, but it's kind of, I think, not my problem. It's the problem of the service that it's calling in the backend to do the transcription because it's not millisecond accurate with the timestamps in the transcript, which you require for video. So, but the thing I'm calling in the background is Assembly AI, which is actually very good. I was super impressed because initially I was using Whisper, which is OpenAI's built-in transcription service API. But as soon as I switched to Assembly, it was much better in terms of quality, and it does proper speaker diarization, which is identifying multiple speakers. And the thing I added to it too was, okay, you've now separated out speakers and numbered them. Can you identify using an analysis pass of the transcript who are the speakers, and then append that name to them through the course of the transcript, right? And it did do that. And then it's doing it phonetically, so sometimes it's off. Oh, sometimes it's remarkably good. Like it's surprising. It got there's a podcast called Clockwise, which is by Relay FM. I don't know if you're familiar with it, but it's a 30-minute podcast, always 30 minutes, and they do a roundtable. They have a lot of guests. But it got everybody's name exactly right in that. And there are a lot of challenging names in that podcast often. So it's working pretty good there. I think the more times people say the names, and maybe it gets better and more confidence.
What are
But you can also
you?
manually edit them if it gets get them wrong. So yeah.
What are you using it for work?
Yeah, I was using it. So part was just a lot of times we want to ingest podcasts at work.
Okay.
and then use it to improve some of the output that we're doing when we're doing AI content generation for clients.
Hmm.
But the other thing I was using it for is I'm also doing a bunch of interviews with subject matter experts at our various client companies, and then using that for similar purposes, or turning it into like a feature article using AI or something like that, right? So I need the
Yeah.
transcript, and I have all these recordings, that hence the upload feature as well. And I wanted to be able to like organize a story and get an outline out of it, so I can say what are the most interesting parts in this, and then I could say like, okay, now like make an outline of what you think an article would look like for this piece, right? And I can do that all in Tool. So yeah.
Yeah. This is sending me kind of mentally down a little bit of a tangent. We can totally clip this part if it doesn't end up being interesting. But like, I wonder when we're going to see, because we're talking about you, like this is something that like the transcription services do exist elsewhere, but they're not what you want out of them. Sometimes they do a bunch of other stuff that you don't want. I wonder when we're going to see more services being like, hey, look, use AI to customize our interface right here within the
Right.
interface. We'll give you a blank canvas. Like, you like Gmail, you know it's secure, cool, but you just wanted to look completely different. Here you go. Prompt it to look like whatever you want. You
Yeah.
know?
I think that will happen. That's actually an area that I'm super interested in, because generative UI is like an emerging area of research and of like product development. And it's super cool. Like the idea that you could come in and just say like, I want settings that do this, or I want a front end feature that does this. And then the thing can do that for you is very practical. I mean, that's basically what I'm doing with Replit, right? It's just also making the back end. But I tweaked all kinds of stuff. One of the first things I did was I said, give it a dark mode. And it gave me a dark mode because I like dark mode, right? And then I said, change this button so this does that, right? Like you can do that on the fly there, but it's a little bit, it's still very accessible, but it's still kind of like, oh, you're using Replit, like you're already probably a technically minded person. But you could see Spotify adding something like this in a super dead simple, like, hey, like, what do you want your home screen to look like, right? That
Right. And
changes
I
a
mean,
bunch of other
I,
stuff, but
I love
yeah.
Spotify, but that's a very good example of a thing that's grown in its feature set enough over time that like there's just too much stuff there for me now. There's a lot of stuff in Spotify that I literally never click. So they could release a simplified version of it, sure, but no matter what, it's not going to appease most people. It's not going to be the simple set of things that they wanted. And so this idea that a UI it could be completely customized, but it's still using a thing that you already know and trust and love is pretty awesome.
Yeah, it is awesome. And if you use that idea, you also have to give us all the money that you have.
Yeah, we are. We're, it,
Spotify. But
we're just throwing them out into the world for free, man.
yeah.
Ideas are free. Information wants to be free, man.
Yeah, yeah. We're so
Uh,
punk rock. Yeah.
all right. So should I talk about some of what I used AI for recently?
Oh, yeah, but just one final note, because I did say it, and I want to like do the thing where I say what I referenced earlier in the episode.
Okay.
But I used Claude to come up with a name for this, and that's why I was asking it for like homonyms and stuff. But I came up with talk show, except it's just phonetically different. It's TAWKSHO. So,
Cute. Because
yeah,
it shows the talking.
yeah, or you're talking to the show, but it
Yeah.
works on so many different levels, right? But, yeah.
Yeah. Damn it. Claude came up with that?
Well, I came up with talk show. And then I was
Okay.
like, can you give me a homonym for this? That's
Okay.
all.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay. I
Because I
was going to
wanted the
say,
URL.
I was like, maybe it is more clever than I was
No, no,
giving it
no.
credit for.
Well, good. I'm glad. I take that compliment.
You are the clever one, Darrell.
Yeah, yeah.
All right. So in terms of stuff that I used AI for this week, like the ones that I want to highlight, it's really just about getting ideas out of my brain before they just die, right? Like how often do you have this thing where it's like, oh, that could be fun, and then it just disappears forever, right? Randomly at 2 a.m, I had an idea for just a video ad, right? For the company I work for, which is Century. I was like, oh, it'd be kind of funny if it was like a parody on like a pharmaceutical ad, just using like different developer related symptoms of like, oh, this is why I should view Century. Um,
That is a
that could have been
good
like
idea.
it could have been
It's
like
funny.
a 2-page spec doc, or I could just clip together a video that showing what I mean, just hand that to people and show them, hey, is this funny, right? I had it generate a couple clips. I had it, I had this idea at 2 in the morning. I think I had the video done by like 3 in the morning. Is it something that I would ever release even on social? No, it's super rough. Obviously AI, obviously broken, but it did a very good job of conveying what the idea could ultimately be in such a way that when I played it for people, they got some laughs. It showed me that there was something there, right?
Nice.
And again, this is something that I was just laying in bed. That idea would have been gone by the time I woke up,
Yeah.
right?
That's a
Along
fantastic use.
the same lines, me and my coworkers we were at lunch, and we had an idea for like to use a cheesy word, like an activation we could do at an event. Once again, could have gone back to my computer, typed out a 2-page spec doc, tried to convince people that it's a good idea. Instead, I just made a still that showed the exact thing, like as close as I could. Got it 90% of the way there with AI, with the generation, and then popped it into Photoshop and tweaked the parts that I didn't like manually. Handed it off to the folks above me, and they're like, "Yeah, this is actually funny as hell. Like this is a good idea."
Right.
And
What
it
what
wasn't.
did you use for the initial, like the visual generation part of it?
That was prompting with ChatGPT.
Oh,
With, I
gotcha.
guess it would be Dolly behind the scenes, but yeah, for the video generation on the first one, that was Veo 3.
Oh,
Um,
yeah, it's so good. But so I
Veo
mean,
3, Veo 3 is it actually blows my mind.
yeah, it's amazing. But the image generation, if it's 4.0, it's not Dolly. They replaced it with the new. I think they just call it the 4.0 image generation,
Okay,
but
okay,
it's
good
super
enough.
super capable, right? Like that was the
Yeah,
one that was a huge leap forward in terms of performance and ability. And if people haven't used that yet, they should go. Especially if you had tried it on the previous Dolly version models and were kind of
yeah,
like unimpressed, like go back and try the modern generation because it is effective.
yeah. A funny experience to go back on Veo 3 for a second. Is it Veo or Veo? Probably Veo, right?
Yeah, I don't know. I
Okay,
say VO, but
I'm
I
gonna
could
assume
be
it's
wrong.
Veo, and I'm gonna keep saying Veo, and I'm
Okay.
probably wrong. And if I'm wrong, yell at me. Um, but sometimes it hits errors that it can't explain. Like, yes, there's always the things where it hits some safeguard, then it doesn't want to
Yeah.
explain why it can't generate this or that. Even if sometimes it's like inexplicable. It's like, I just wanted to get like a video of a rocket going up in the air. It's like, no. Um,
Rocket's bad. Yeah.
Rocket's bad. But in this case, so right now it has a every user has a set limit on how many videos they can generate per day, right?
Mhm.
And I say per day, but it's really per like unspecified stretch of time.
Mm.
And I think it varies a lot based on like GPU availability and overall usage and whatnot. But Veo tries to say like, okay, you have 2 videos left and I'll generate one more. And it's like, you're out of videos. And it's like, no, like I was
Yeah.
counting on that second video to kind of
Yeah.
tweak this back and forth, right? Or it'll be like, you have one left for the rest of the day. And so I'll make one more. And then it's like, okay, you can't make more videos until next Wednesday. What? Like, there's some sort of miscommunication on what should be in something so incredibly complex as to like generate video universes out of nothing in like 2 minutes. That's wildly complex. And
Yes.
yet this thing seems simple in comparison is the broken part.
Well, it's not deterministic. They're terrible at counting these things. So that's probably what it is.
They are terrible at counting.
Yeah. I'll just say just because it's related, but when I was in San Francisco last week, I spent a lot of time with Will Proctor, who just last week was announced as the executive producer of AI video at GrowthX.ai. And he is a very, very talented video producer and filmmaker. And he is also super AI native. Like I've never met a video producer who is so engaged and uses AI so extensively and cleverly. And the things that he was showing me were astounding in terms of like when they were using, he showed me a ton of clips that were using AI B-roll clips interspersed with real footage. And in most cases, I could not tell when he was cutting. And then also like voiceover. So he would have actual captured interview in studio, and then he would do voiceover too of lines that they didn't get the pickup or they wanted to do again, but with the person's voice using 11 Labs, and astounding. Like amazing. Like he would perform the lines and then like with the emotion, whatever, and that would convey to the 11 Labs version of it in the person's voice, right? So Everybody in this scenario is bought into this totally voluntary participation, wants this to happen. So like, don't feel like it's like against creatives or voice actors or something, right? But it was just amazing to see what is actually possible with the state of the art. And it's not like Will's using like this stuff just raw out of the models and VO or whatever. Like he's taking a lot of time and doing a lot of processing to make sure that it fits and is seamless. And a lot of times that's just rerunning generations, and which are very expensive in this case, right? But like you run 5 generations on VO versus spending, I don't know, $250,000 on a practical effects shot. Like it's fine, right? So,
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, kind of across the board, that's where we are with a lot of these tools, whether it's video stuff or whether it's coding. No, it like absolutely can't replace a talented person at this, and you wouldn't want it to. But it does make people who are already good at their jobs be able to do certain things way faster. Like that with that when I was talking about that still earlier, I still had to take it and pop it into Photoshop and tweak it to be the actual thing that I wanted. But it got me to that point so much faster that it's the only thing that let me get that idea out of my head to make this thing real.
Yep. Yeah. And it's sort of the same with writing. Like Claude is very, very good at writing these days, honestly, right? And it can help a lot with getting stuff together. I mean, I still don't use it for like my newsletter, but that's still just as like, and not like, I don't use it for any of my personal writing, but that's like an indulgence, right? Like I really don't feel like it's a quality issue anymore. I feel like it's like an affectation and an indulgence more than anything else at this point. So should we move on to some of our art of favorites for the week? I want to get a theme song for that. Art of favorites, and then it'll be like doink doink boink doink boink. That's my audio prompt.
Can you prompt Suno with just that? Art of favorites, but doink 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 doink.
Yeah, I will.
Perfect.
Do you have one, or I have one ready to go? But
I have one.
Okay,
I'll jump in first. It's actually something that I kind of mentioned a couple weeks ago as being on the way when I was talking about getting a new 3D printer. I did get a new 3D printer as a result of Bambu Labs doing a big sale. And I cannot believe how much better 3D printers have gotten in the past few years. I would say the last time I really actively used a 3D printer was about 6 or 7 years ago, and there's this whole complicated story about like patents expiring and there being patent battles and stuff like that. And it's perhaps that's part of the reason why the Bambu Labs printer has gotten is quite good. But for a long time, 3D printing was like you had the idea, you modeled up the idea, you made it, and then you got into this battle with your printer of trying to hone it in, make sure the bed was level, make sure that the first layer stuck well, make sure everything worked. And then like sometimes you would still put in like 6 or 7 hours to a print, look away from it and come back and it's just a bunch of spaghetti spit out on top, right? Because
yeah, it was horrible.
Trip out for whatever reason. Dude, I unboxed this thing and just picked random stuff off their like store
preset
type
sample thing.
Yeah. Or like they have like a big community driven store type thing, right? Where you can make things, submit them, get upvotes, and then like points for those things, right? So it's kind of gamified. But everything I've picked off there just works.
Wow.
Right? Like it just comes out the first time to the point that like my kid is picking stuff on there and I'll get a notification on my phone that the 3D printer's going and I'll come home and he's done. Like it's set and he's done it himself. He's never used one of these things. And so this isn't like an ad for Bambu Labs in any way. It's just this idea that 3D printers have gotten so good so fast.
That is great. Because it was a real disaster before. I remember coming home to like halfway through like a 17-hour print or something, and it was like, oh, it screwed up. Great. Like it fell off the plate.
Dude,
like
and it's just like little quality of life things, right? Like, so for example, you with this one, you can print in multiple colors. Okay. And so you could do like a figurine that's like however many colors you want, depending on how fancy your setup is. But generally, when you're switching from color to color, it has to like purge the first color.
Yep.
Right. And that generates a lot of waste, right? That's just a lot of extra plastic that you're not using for anything. And so it's literally just spitting it out the back of the printer to get it out of the way. But this one will do things like I can have a second object. Like if I have a thing where I don't really care about the colors of something, like I'm just making some plastic fidget thing, it'll use that as the purge, right? Like it'll use that to get rid of all the extra plastic, which it's at least considerably less wasteful.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Another one is like if you're printing 3 objects on the same bed, sometimes you'll on the same work bed, sometimes one of those will fail, right? It's just the nature of 3D printing. Something went weird. One of them got bumped off or whatever. And that's how you get that funky spaghetti that's just spitting into the air. In this case, you just tap the screen, you go, oh, ignore that one, right? And then it's just like it moves around that one. It knows that it's there, but it no longer continues printing to
Oh, that's
the one
great.
of three. Isn't that awesome?
Yeah. That sounds super good. It makes me want to kind of try 3D printing again, which like I
Yeah.
think same as you. Like I probably touched it last even more, probably like 8
Yeah.
to 10
I mean, I
years
literally
ago.
have an old MakerBot Replicator 2X sitting on the floor back
Mm.
there that has been gathering dust forever. And that's a pretty antiquated one, but I would just get so frustrated with
Well, it
this
was
thing.
state of the art back then. I mean,
At the time, it totally was. But
yeah,
it's like, even for state of the art, it was kind of enraging at times and just would lead to a lot of wasted material and a lot of wasted time. Not so much anymore.
cool.
Yeah.
All right. Well, my favorite thing is, or art of favorite. Sorry, I should use the proper branding. This week is Donkey Kong Bananza, which I've been playing finally on Switch 2. And I've just started playing it, so I'm not super far into it, but it's very fun.
It is.
It's just Smash. It's like Smash game. You just smash things.
Yeah.
Like
It's therapeutic.
yeah,
You want
yeah,
to punch that wall? Go punch that wall. You want to throw rocks at that thing? Go throw rocks at it.
yeah. Like tons of the environment is destructible. It at first there was all this like clipping stuff that I was kind of like, this is weird, but then you're like,
Yeah.
I don't mind this at all. It doesn't
Yeah.
matter. Like it's
Yeah.
yeah, it's good.
If you liked Mario Odyssey, but you wished Mario could beat the shit out of everything in the game,
Yeah.
that's what this game. I say that. And the Mario, like, obviously it was made by a significant percentage, a chunk of the Mario Odyssey team. Nintendo has since disclosed that. And so there's always that comparison there. And this part's going to seem like blasphemy to a lot of people, I think. But I feel like, so Astrobot?
Yeah.
Astrobot borrowed pretty heavily from the Mario games,
Yeah,
especially the
absolutely.
3D Mario. That's undeniable, right? They even, I think there was a Game Awards thing where they did a bit of a nod to Mario, being like, the person that the game that we borrowed from, it, thank you.
Right.
I feel like a lot of the time when I'm playing Donkey Kong Bonanza, it's as if that team looked and like, oh, you want to borrow from us? Okay, cool. Like, two can play that game because
Yeah,
there's like
that's true.
there's
A lot of the
definite.
object interactions and the
Yeah.
special superpower things and stuff
Yeah,
that you
and
get.
I don't think it's a bad thing. I think both
No.
games made each other better.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's a blast. Go out there, have fun with it if you have a Switch 2. And yeah, maybe 3D print a Donkey Kong maquette if you have a Bambu Labs printer. All right.
Oh man, I know the end of this episode probably seems like a Bambu Labs episode, and like super hardcore 3D printing people are going to be like, "What are you doing? There's better printers than that." Or, but man, it's convinced me. It's converted me back to loving my three. Look, okay, like
Yeah,
I'll show
wait.
you.
I want to see it.
This was the first thing I printed out of the 3D printer.
Oh,
Okay, it was an articulated dragon for
I
my
mean, this is
kid.
weird, but I have
this
one too.
this
I
one
didn't
is
print it.
that one's dad. The funny thing is, amongst like actual people who do 3D printing all day, every day, these articulated dragons are considered kind of like mid, for lack of a better word.
I
Where
see.
it's because like they are cool, but they're also the thing that everybody wants to print once they get a 3D printer, right? And it's like the go-to. But I literally I hit a button, and this came out first shot. It's like complicated. It has like all these sharp angles and stuff. I came out with no supports, nothing that had to be plucked off of it, nothing that had to be changed about it. It was just ready. More practically, right? My kid really likes Lego. He wants to put his minifigs on display. On the wall of his room, he has this like pegboard thing, right? Like imagine like being able to hang like tools in there. I looked on the aforementioned shop thing that they had, and sure enough, they had little minifig displays that could slip
Insert
right
into the pegboard. Oh,
into that
wow.
pegboard. And so like when he builds a minifig that he's particularly proud of, boop, it's on display, right? And I hit a button and I had 40 of them.
Wow.
So
Okay, well, that's really good. And it super now does especially sound like an ad for Bambu Labs, but it is
we
not
will
one.
we will probably cut that down by 50%. So I'm a little bit
No
less of a
way. I mean, if you're genuinely excited about a thing, you should leave it in there, right? Like that doesn't
yeah.
happen all that often. So
Yeah. Bambu Labs has paid me nothing. In fact, I have given them thousands of dollars at this point. So
right. Yeah. Even better. All right, Greg, that is a fantastic note to end on because it makes you happy. And yeah, I guess we'll see you next week when hopefully we will talk this much about AI again. I was going to say, but you know what you're in for at this point.
Yeah. All right. Cool. See you, man.
Bye.